to share my testimony. Like 2 weeks ago, I did like a couple slides on YouTube and I shared it. But today, I want to actually say it and confess it. Give my testimony from my heart. So, well, my testimony, right? I was raised in the church. Both my parents were in ministry. So, I grew up in church. Uh, I was saved at like a early age, like maybe like I'm gonna say like maybe 6 or 7. I gave my life to Christ. I was baptized. I even received the gift of the Holy Spirit. The evidence of speaking in tongues. And I was young, so I really didn't really comprehend, I guess, what God did for me, or I guess what really salvation meant, because I was so young. And like I said, I grew up in church, so I really didn't have any like experiences to compare being saved versus not being saved, right? Um, and let me say this. Like when I was in elementary school, like those of you who saw the slides, could see that I used to be a stud. So when I was in elementary school, that's really where the enemy first started putting those type of thoughts in my head, like you like women or you like girls. Like I used to have like real bad crushes on my teachers, and I would like chase girls around the playground during recess. So when I was in elementary school, that's where those thoughts first started. But then again, you know, thank God for His grace. Like I was saved. I did have the Holy Spirit at that time. So that's a important reference point right there. We'll get to that later. But growing older, like when I realized really what was going on, because I never knew what those feelings meant. I never knew what that word was until like I think I was like in middle school, and I heard homosexuality and the term lesbianism, because I never knew. I had the feelings, but I never knew what what it was, right? So you know I'm gonna say around like 15. Around 15, I like came out to my mom. I told her, like, because I was struggling with with the feelings, and I would go to church, and the pastor would preach from the pulpit. You know, people who are homosexual are going to hell, right? So I came out to my mom when I was 15, and like she cried, She said, "No, it's not true. It's not true. You can't, you can't be gay. It's not true, right? Because my mom, being in ministry and everything like that, she was totally against it, totally against it. Never accepted me. And as a teenager, yo, that hurt. That really did. That hurt, because that's like rejection. Like you're, as a teenager, you feel like your parents are supposed to like support you and love you, but it it wasn't God's will, and I understand that now. But back then, I had some real, you know, feelings about that. I've always felt like my mom never accepted me for at the time who I thought I was. You know, so that hurt me, and I felt like that hurt me in regards to the relationships with some of the women that I got in, into relationships with, because I feel like my mom doesn't love me, and you know who's gonna really love me, because you feel like your parents are always supposed to have your back. But I got older from there. In high school, I never really had any relationships with girls, but after high school, that's really where, because in 2004, 5, 6, and 7, it was like being gay was like you didn't want to talk about it. Everybody was like closeted about their sexuality. I mean, there was some girls in high school that I knew were gay, and I knew that liked me, but at that time, I was closeted. I didn't want to tell nobody. Nobody, because back then it was like not not really heard of. Like going forward, like 2012 or 15 or whatever. It became more like normalized, but not when I was in high school. It wasn't. Um, Around in college, that's really when I came out. I was like, I started dressed the way I wanted to. Uh, I just started being who, at the time I thought I was, a stud, like a masculine type of female. I dated feminine females. I didn't ever date like masculine females. Always feminine females. Uh, I dressed like feminine women, and I started to do me. You know, I before that, I kept praying. Like when I was like in high school, I kept praying when I was in like my teenage years. Like, Lord, if this isn't who I'm supposed to be, like if these feelings aren't from you, take them away. I kept praying that, and praying that, and praying that, and I always felt some type of way. Like, God, why don't you take these feelings away? I don't want these feelings. If they're not from you, I don't want them. But I don't know. Maybe God had a plan and purpose for me, because since I came out of that, maybe that's what it was. For His glory to go back and reach somebody else. But at that time, oh my God, I was like, I felt tormented by it. But like going on into my 20s, that's when I really, like I said, started in college getting into relationships with women. The relationships, oh my God, they were all not great. Like in the beginning, the relationships were beautiful. I thought like, oh my gosh, this is the one, or I love her, or I'm gonna marry this one, or I could see my life with this one. I could see having a family with this one, because that's what I wanted. That was my heart. Like that was my dream, to be with a woman, have a wife, have kids, have a family. Have the house with the white picket fence. That's was my dream. That was my goal, like in life, and it just never happened. And some of the relationships were very violent, um, manipulative. Some of these women that I dated, I played a part in some of the relationships too. I did, especially the last relationship I was in. Well, the second to the last one was really really bad. Like this girl, I was in a relationship with a girl. She was younger than me, and she had a younger sister, and her family ended up moving back to Georgia. So, and her mom, let them know, like, I'm gonna say like a month before they had to move, like, you guys are gonna have to find somewhere to go. You're gonna have to find somewhere to stay, or you could go to Georgia. She didn't want to move, and her sister was going into her last year of high school, so she definitely didn't want to go. So, at the time, me and the girl started talking, and then eventually we started dating. And then she like told me about it. She called me crying, like, "Oh, I got like less than a month to find somewhere to go, or I'm gonna be homeless." And so, me being a stud, being the masculine type of person, I always like to take care of whoever I was dating, right? So I was like, it's gonna be all right. We're gonna find a place to stay, because at the time I was roommates with somebody, so you know it was me and my roommate, and obviously there wasn't any room for both of them. So I ended up finding a house like at the last couple days of, I think it was December or January, the end of that month, like right on time. The Lord blessed me with a place to stay, and let me tell you, God was faithful all throughout me being away from Him. I always had a roof over my head, even though I turned my back on God. He remained faithful. I always had a job when I needed a job. I always had a vehicle when I needed a vehicle. I always had a house when I needed a house or a place to stay. Like he stayed faithful to me when I was faithless. I just want to throw that in there. And so we ended up moving into the house, and then the beginning was okay. You know, we got the house, everybody's happy, and then it just turned. Like, even though it was her sister, right? She really was the sister's mom. You know what I'm saying? Like, because she raised her. My girlfriend raised her sister, so it wasn't really a sister relationship. It was a mother daughter relationship. So when I say that, like, me and the sister, the younger sister, my girlfriend's sister, will get into arguments, and you know, if you're in a relationship with somebody, and I come to you and I tell you, oh, she did this, that, and the third. She's a child. She's 18. I was I'm gonna say I was 32 at the time, and I'm telling you, oh, she disrespected me. As your spouse, you should listen to my side and take what I'm saying into consideration. But their relationship rule, since that's the mom, right? She was listening to her daughter. So whenever I said something about about her, she was like, "Oh no, not my baby, like not my baby." Like a mother takes up for their child. So it got real crazy. One day, the girl disrespected me. Right? She threw a hot sauce bottle at me. The hot sauce got all over my brand new champion shirt, and she was like, "You can't tell me what to do. This is my sister's house." I'm like, "Your sister's house, girl? Me and this, my name is on the lease." Like, and we had this real crazy argument. Like, she went outside, and this was on a busy street in Trenton, right? A busy street, right? So it was on I'm not gonna say the street name, but it was on a busy street in Trenton. All these cars going back and forth. Me and her outside going back and forth with it. Like, the neighbors could hear. It was crazy, man. It was crazy. And then it just kept those type of situations kept going on and on. Like, her sister, my ex girlfriend, had a bad drinking problem. Like, me and her would go at it. We would physically be fighting. One time we was physically fighting. Like, I had knocked her down in the kitchen. She had like pushed me out the house, locked me out the house. Yo, I was kicking that door. It was just chaos. It was just chaos. It was just chaotic. It was just chaotic. And those type of relationships I would keep having, like, with these women, like, just bad, toxic relationships, violent, like, yeah, alcohol be involved, you know, drugs, and some of the relationships would be involved. It was just chaotic because I was outside the will of God. So obviously and at the time, I honestly I believed I was gay. I did. I believed I was gay. I didn't really necessarily believe during that time that homosexuality was a sin, because I decided to accept who I was, because I wasn't gonna keep going, keep hobbling the fence. I was like, if I'm gonna be it, I'm gonna be it all the way. You know, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it all the way. Like, this is me. This is who I am. Nobody's gonna tell me who I am. Like, I had gotten into a bad argument with my mom about it too. Like, you're not gonna tell me that this is a sin, or how to live my life. Cause I'm grown. I'm gonna do what I want to do, right? I told God, shoot, I'm gonna live my life the way I'm gonna live it. That's what I did. I told him that I'm gonna live my life the way I want to live it, and I did, and I paid the price for it. But that's what I said, and I stood on it. Um, and boy, so going back to that relationship, that was like the second to the last relationship I had before I, eventually. came back to the Lord, and it eventually ended up with me, my ex, and her sister getting into a bad argument, like bad, like first of all, she broke up with me, and I was like, wow, 2 years basically down the drain. I thought I was gonna marry her. I did. I really did. Like I was talking about marriage. Um, I was, I, I had the discussion with her sister about it. Some of my friends, like, I really thought, like, this was it. Like, this was the one. Mm. And she broke up with me. Yo, I was hurt. I was so hurt. I, I was like, no, 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 no. Like 2 years, that's a decent time to settle down with somebody after 2 years. I mean, it's just like either we gonna do it or we're not gonna do it. But I believe she was the one, and after she broke up with me, I was so hurt that I was like, can we consider counseling? Uh, can we do something to rectify whatever you think is the problem? I mean, but it was a lot of problems. I mean, the relationship was toxic. I mean, now I see that now, but before I was like, nah, we can always overcome that because there was no infidelity. Nobody was cheating. I wasn't cheating. All I did was go to work, come home, or spend time with my family. That's it. But she was like, no. So she had left and went to go stay with her best friend for a while. And I was there with the sister, which I couldn't stand. Like, why you gonna leave me and go to your best friend's house and leave me with the with the daughter, right? Why you gotta do that? So I didn't see her for like a couple weeks, right? And then she came back home, right? And we got into an argument. Like she took the whole ashtray with all the weed, the little the little blunts in it, and poured it on my head. Yo, I was like heated. I was heated. I got up, went out the bedroom, went into the hallway, and I was just yelling at her. She was yelling at me. Her sister went downstairs, right? Came back upstairs. I didn't know at the time, but she had went downstairs to the kitchen, right, to get a knife. Came back upstairs and like they had closed the door, the bedroom door. I was in the hallway. All I could hear was she saying, "Here, take this." I didn't know what it was, but later I was gonna find out that she had gave her a knife. So we was going back and forth, back and forth. She. I think I went downstairs, but she had called her best friend and another friend to come from South Jersey up to Trenton or whatever because she thought something. They was planning. The whole thing was they was planning to jump me. That's what that was. But I had ended up calling my cousin, right? So I called my cousin and I was like, "Yo, come over to my house because I didn't say." She heard the conversation, but I was speaking in a little code, like because I felt like something was going to happen. I felt it. I felt it. So her friends ended up coming over. I went out to the back porch. Went out to the back porch. They didn't know where I was, but I was outside, and I was waiting for him. He wasn't gonna fight them, but I just knew something was gonna go down, and I wanted somebody there. So I went out to the back porch, and uh, her friends showed up, and then they all started arguing with me, like going back and forth with me, cursing me out. I was cursing them out too. And then um, she had the my ex's sister had kicked my dog. That's when things kicked off. She kicked my dog. I took a chair that was on the porch. I threw it, and then we went off the porch. She was yelling at me. I was yelling at her. She spit in my face. I spit in her face back. Like, no, actually, I spit in her face first. Then she spit in my face. So, boom, it just started going. It just started going. I ended up fighting her. I ended up tearing her up. Because, first, you're not going to abuse my dog, you know. Not to say that any of this was right. It wasn't. It wasn't. And eventually the cops were called, and who did they take? Not them. They took me. It took me after and the whole thing of it is, even when I went to get a lawyer, like how would why would you take me but not them? That was always the crazy thing, because I had scratches on my neck, I had scratches on my face, um, and like I said, it was four females against me. Like I said, my cousin, he's male, so he didn't get into it. He tried to defend me, like try to calm the situation down, but he wasn't gonna put his hands on any other females or whatever. So they end up locking me up. They end up locking me up. They charged me with aggravated assault. I still have the videos of me getting locked up and everything on my phone, just as a reminder. You gotta calm down. You gotta calm down. And pray, and don't let the enemy control your emotions. That's I left. Oh, I keep those videos on my phone. But I ended up getting locked up, and thank God I had. It's crazy how everything worked out. I had met this lawyer on a black business page, like I think in like 2020 or 2021. That's ended up being the lawyer that I ended up using, and she's phenomenal. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to do a little thing at the end, because she's excellent. But yeah, everything ended up working out. Thanks be to God. The charges were it was the charges were. I mean, I won. I won the case. Everything worked out. Thanks be to God. I worked that out. That didn't have any effect on me, especially with the job that I have. You can't have aggravated have an aggravated assault charge. I can't be working out here with the elderly with an aggravated assault charge. So the Lord worked that out in my favor. He did. And after that relationship ended, yo, I was hurt. I was hurt like, dang. I think a year after, I was still crying. Like, you know, why did this happen to me, Lord? Why? But like I keep saying, I was out of the will of God. I was doing what I wanted to do. You know. So the next relationship I got into, still toxic, right? But mm, this one was the end of that, cause the relationship I got into a relationship with a girl. I think basically, I don't know how can I say this. She was like a rebound. She was a rebound basically, cause she was there during the situation. First of all, she was a friend to confide in while I was in this relationship, because of all the things that I was going through in that relationship. So she started off being just a friend, right? But it ended up turning, I guess, into a romantic relationship, because she was there, you know, to basically heal the wounds that I had from that relationship. So she was a rebound. She was a rebound, and like she had her issues too. Like she had some mental issues and stuff. And again, the relationship was had some violent stuff to it, because like she tried to stab me one time. When I broke up with her, she was trying to she wanted to stab me again. Like I was in the living room after I told her, this relationship isn't gonna work out. I think it's not me, it's you. It's not, excuse me, it's not you, it's me. And it was me. It was me. Cause I didn't really love her. Like I was so hurt from relationship after relationship not working out, being hurt by these women. The the failure. I felt like I failed in each and every one of these relationships because they didn't work out. But yeah, whew, she was upset with me. She was upset with me. But again, it wasn't the will of God, and even spiritually, like she was practicing. witchcraft. She was. She told me before I even like got into a relationship that she practiced witchcraft. She she uses the crystals. She had the tarot cards, the little mat with the what is it? Like it's not it looks like a star. She would practice all that. She would have the candles, all that. And before I got into a relationship, see, I still had some principles, even though I wasn't going to church at the time. I was really way far, far away from God right then. I told her, I don't. If we get in a relationship, you can't be doing all this, right? But she was doing it behind my back. Come to find out, before I broke up with her, I started finding things in the house, and then when she moved out, I started finding some stuff because I was like cleaning up my house after we broke up and after she left. I was cleaning up my house and I would find all this like weird witchcraft stuff. And I would wonder why things would go on in the house or upstairs. Mind you, the apartment upstairs when we were living together, empty. Come to find out, somebody had passed away in the apartment upstairs from on top that was living on top of us. And they said somebody passed away in there. So nobody was in there. The maintenance, no maintenance people were up there. Yo, stuff would go on up there, and stuff would go on sometimes in the apartment. And I'm wondering, like, what's going on? Like, demonic stuff would be happening. But let's fast forward. So I ended up meeting somebody at my job that goes to the church I go to now. That's currently my now is my church. And she would minister to me here and there, and we ended up being close. Excuse me. And she invited me to go to her church one day, so I went. I have no expectations. Like, I wasn't expecting anything to happen, but I was like, all right, I'll go. So I went, and man, there was an altar call. So I went up to the altar, and I don't know, yo. I just started feeling the Holy Spirit. I did. I started feeling the Holy Spirit. I just started feeling like, man, I've been so far away from you, Lord. Mm. I just been so far away from you, and I miss you. I miss feeling your spirit. I miss our relationship. I miss you. And man, the Holy Spirit just. And I fell to my knees and I just started praying. I started just the Holy Spirit just started touching my heart, cuz at that time my heart was hard. Like, I can tell you, I could not feel anything. I could To love somebody, there was nothing to give anymore. My heart was hard. It just hard and just empty and just full of pain. And the Lord just started working on me that day. I'm telling you, starting that day, and one of the evangelists came up to me and ministered to me. And she was like, "I see you ministering to people like yourself." And I was starting to speak in tongues. Like, stuff was happening, bro. Like, she was like, "Oh, are you speaking in tongues?" I'm like, "Yo," and I hadn't spoken in tongues in years. You know what I'm saying? Like, so stuff started happening, and I didn't have any expectation. I wasn't expecting to change. I didn't go to church thinking, "Oh, you about to not be gay anymore. You don't want to be." No, I just started going to church. I just started keep going. I just kept going. I just kept going to church. When they would have the altar call, I would just keep going. I would just keep going up there, and the Lord just kept working on me. The Holy Spirit just kept working on me, and maybe a month or two later, my feelings started to change. You know, when I would pray, I did. When I would pray, I said, Lord, I surrender. I'm tired, because I was. I walked away from God, hopping and skipping, but I came back, you know, messed up on the inside, messed up in my mind, depressed, oppressed. Uh, 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 you know, I had no life expectancy. I always thought in my mind, the enemy was working on my mind like, yo, you gonna die young. You're not gonna live long. You gonna die young. That was my thoughts about my life that the enemy put in my head. It wasn't me. The enemy was putting those things in my mind about me dying young, about you have no purpose. Like, why are you here? When we come to God, that's where we find who we are, and we find out the plans and the purpose that He has for us when we come to God. Well, the enemy has his own plans for you, and the Lord has a plan that He planned before before the world began. He had a plan and purpose for your life, but the enemy, he wants to mess with your mind, put thoughts in your mind. He wants to steal the identity of who God made you and created you to be. He wants to change those thoughts. He wants to mess. He that's what he does. He's a liar. He the enemy wants to steal, kill, and destroy. But God came so that you could have life in abundance to the full until it overflows. That He wants you to have it's called the Zoe life, uh, the God kind of life. That's what the Lord wants for you. That's what the Lord wants for me. And boy, I just kept going to church, man. I just kept going, and the Lord started working in me, and changing my heart that was like stone. He started changing and softening, and and I started to get my joy back. I was on medication for depression. I stopped taking those pills, bro. It's been a couple months. It's been a couple months since I taken those pills because I don't need them now. I'm not depressed. Like I'm happy and I'm at peace. And the world can offer you peace. It's a temporary peace. When things are going all right, your money right, everything's going right, your bills is paid. It's a temporary type of peace. But once something goes wrong, you no longer have peace. His peace, oh, it's a peace that everything could be going wrong, but he gives you a peace and a knowing that everything's gonna be all right. Mm. So, that, that's really my testimony. I haven't, you know, I'm not to say that I'm perfect. I'm not perfect at all. The Lord's still working on me. He's still working on my attitude. He's still working. He's still doing His work, and He's going to continue to do His work because nobody's going to be perfect until the Lord comes back. Until we go to be with the Lord. So it's a process, and I'm thankful to God that He brought me out of homosexuality. He brought me out of the pit that I was in. Like I said, I was depressed. Like just I was a mess. Like I really was. I was a mess, and the whole time I was away from God, he was still right there. Like he was still right there. Like I said, he was still providing. He was still watching over me. Even the situation with me getting locked up in those charges, he worked that out. That was nothing but God, because you know I could have been charged. I could have been charged. I could have, because they were. I think she said, I don't know, maybe somewhere around 3 years, possibly, or something like that. I could have, I could have been doing time. Anything could have happened. The girl wanted to stab me. The sister wanted to stab me. So the enemy was trying to take me out. But God and His plan, for my life, and He will leave the 99 to go get that one lost sheep. I was that prodigal child. And I came to my senses and I ran back, ran back home. Literally ran back home. I was pretty much estranged from my mother, and God started working on that relationship, restoring that relationship. So, God is faithful. He's continually, restoring me in different areas of my life. He's just amazing. So, yeah. Thank you for listening.